Exposed. 3 sinister and haunted janitor stories that will haunt your nightmares forever. Jessica was on her knees scrubbing the cracked linoleum floors of Willow Creek Middle School, the acrid scent of bleach overwhelming her senses. It was just past midnight, and the echo of her mop sloshing about was the only sound in the empty hallways. She tightened her grip, the cold handle biting into her palm as flickering fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. It was supposed to be a blessing of flexible night shift to make ends meet, ensuring her daughter, Lily, could attend a safe school. Yet, the silence felt oppressive, every creak of the ancient building amplifying her nerves. It was nothing, she convinced herself. Just an old school settling. But then came the whispers. Jessica's heart raced. It started as a mere murmur, something shapeless sweeping through the shadows of the classroom corners. She paused, holding her breath, trying to differentiate the chilling sound from the buzzing overhead. A soft thunk resonated down the hallway, causing her to jump. What was that? She shook her head, blaming her exhaustion. This was just a school. But the fear gnawed at her, like cold fingers creeping up her spine. A shadow flickered, and for the briefest moment, she thought she saw something dart from her peripheral vision. A chill crept into her bones. She continued mopping, forcing her mind to settle, when she stumbled across a supply closet. Curiosity piqued, she opened the door, revealing a hidden alcove behind a bookshelf. There, crumbling photographs littered the floor, capturing faces of past janitors, students whose laughter was replaced by countless years of dust. Jessica picked one up, studying a faded picture of a grinning boy, his eyes hollow, as if the moment had been stolen from time itself. As the days turned to weeks, the subtle terror escalated. Tom, a fellow janitor with a nice smile and a quiet demeanor, became her nighttime companion. At first, he was comforting, but he opened up about the whispers, speaking of them like friends. You hear them too, don't you? He grinned, a glimmer of something dark in his gaze. They tell you things. Jessica felt her stomach twist. His words hung in the air, slinking into her thoughts like poison. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One night, the whispers grew louder, morphing into soft, muffled cries that slithered down the hallways, tormenting her. She felt it then, the primal need to protect Lily from unseen dangers lurking just outside her door. Each flicker of lights, each shuddering breath held new meaning. Her instincts screamed, warning her that the school was a cage woven from the fabric of buried horrors. As she crossed paths with Tom one fateful evening, a gut-wrenching realization began to claw at her sanity. His gentle mask slipped just for a moment, revealing a gaze full of something dark, like the shadows that clung to the walls. In the flickering light, she questioned everything. What if he was more than just a janitor? What if the school's long-forgotten history was alive and hungry? Taking a deep breath, she approached him, broom clenched tight. What remained of her courage pulled in her hands, whispering a single question that echoed through the chill. Would the dawn bring safety for Lily, or had the lurking dread already woven its way into their lives? Jessica's heart pounded. Tom's eyes shimmered with an intensity that sent icy tendrils wrapping around her spine. Her mind raced through the stories, the dangers of the school, the things that had gone wrong in that very building. Suddenly, the whispers echoed louder in her ears, wrapping tighter around her thoughts. "What are they saying, Tom?" she blurted, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. They tell me there's darkness here. Secrets, things that should stay buried. His smile widened, but it felt wrong, as though he held the knowledge of everything that had ever happened within these walls. She wanted to step back, but her feet felt glued to the ground. What do you mean by secrets? A flicker of something shadowy shifted behind him, a dark form that danced at the edge of her vision. Jessica's breath hitched. Tom, you're scaring me, she managed, desperately trying to dispel the cloying dread that wrapped around her. Tom chuckled softly, the sound unsettling. You shouldn't be scared. They just want to play to be heard. What do you know about the boy in the photograph? She pressed, feeling a strange pull towards the old image still gripped tightly in her hand. Tom's expression darkened, a shadow crossing his face. Some say he still wanders the halls, looking for something lost, or someone. The hallway felt colder. Shadows stretched longer, creeping closer. The flickering lights flickered out, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged in her chest. Tom! She called out, but all she could hear was the soft rustling sound shuffling around her, like footsteps just beyond the reach of her grasp. Then came the whispers again, louder, clearer until she could almost make them out. Phrases slithered through the air, brushing against her skin. Help us, join us. They sent a spike of terror through her, and suddenly she understood. The past was buried too deep, and the spirits that lingered were stirring. Jessica! Tom's voice snapped her back to reality, his face mere inches away now, shadowy and indistinct. You have to accept their invitation. They need you, we need you. Panic washed over her. What do you mean? His grin widened. You have something they want. You just don't know it yet. She took a wavering step back. I don't want anything to do with this. The whispers intensified, rising to a fever pitch, becoming a cacophony of pleas and taunts, almost drowning out her thoughts. It made her sick. With each pulse of sound, she felt a pull, a soft tug in her mind, begging for her to listen. Tom seemed to sense her wavering resolve. You can't run from them, Jessica. They want to let you. The lights flickered back on, illuminating the hallway, but a shadow lingered behind him, contorting and writhing in shapes too terrifying to comprehend. Jessica's heart raced. She felt trapped in a nightmare, and what should have felt like safety was now far from it. Get away from me, she shouted, but her voice was trembling. Suddenly, a door slammed open further down the hall, startling them both. A figure stood silhouetted against the pale light, hair wild, clothes tattered, a girl, not much older than Lily. Jessica's breath caught in her throat, as the girl pointed a quivering finger at her. Help me! A single thought rocketed through her. She must protect Lily at all costs. But this was becoming too complicated, too deep. Before she could react, the shadows lunged toward Tom, engulfing him. His scream echoed, merging with the whispers of anguish. She felt the cold rush of air as the shadows reached for her, pulling her toward the darkness that beckoned. In that moment of sheer panic, Jessica realized something. She needed to break free or lose everything. With all the strength she had left, she sprinted down the hall, each step pounding with desperation. But as she fled, one chilling realization gripped her. What if the boy in the photograph was not the only one waiting to be found? And what if they were coming to find her next? Jessica's lungs burned as she raced down the corridor, her heart thrumming against her ribcage like a frantic bird. The echoes of Tom's screams faded behind her, but the whispers only grew louder. They skittered along the walls, weaving through the darkness, reaching toward her like ghostly fingers. Help us, join us, each phrase twisted inside her. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were personal, meant for her. As she ran, she threw desperate glances over her shoulder, half expecting to see Tom's eyes wide with terror, pleading for her to return. But he was lost now, swallowed whole by the very shadows they had hoped to understand. The flickering lights cast eerie patterns on the floor, making it feel as if the ground itself was shifting beneath her. Jessica stumbled, her foot catching on something. She looked down, and the sight made her stomach churn. A broken pencil, the tip stained with something dark. Blood? Or ink? She scrambled to her feet, the weight of the hallway growing thicker, almost as if the walls were closing in on her. "I have to find Lily," she muttered, determined to reach her sister. The thought of her innocent face cut through the terror she needed to protect her. But the whispers intensified. With every step she took, they wrapped around her, slowing her down like a thick fog. "You must listen, you must remember." Her pulse quickened. What did she need to remember? What was it about the boy in the photograph that held such power over this place? Before she could process her next move, a door flew open at the end of the hallway, slamming against the wall with a deafening crack. An unfamiliar figure emerged, bursting into the light. A tall boy, one she recognized from class, but his usually bright demeanor replaced by a haunting blank stare. "Zach?" He raised a hand, motioning her closer. "Jessica, you have to come. They're waiting, we need you." "Wait, what?" Panic rose in her throat. She had no intention of getting pulled back into this nightmare. "No. I have to find my sister. They'll find her too." "You're the key," he urged, stepping forward as shadows loomed closer behind him. The air shimmered, almost like static electricity. Jessica felt it crawl across her skin. "No! Stay back!" she shouted, the urgency in her voice desperate. But something in Zach's gaze momentarily softened, the flicker of humanity breaking through the haze. "Jessica, please. We don't have much time. There is something you don't know," he pressed, his voice urgent and low. But just as quickly, shadows darted out from the edges of the room, creeping like snakes ready to strike. Jessica could hear their whispers now too, a terrifying harmony that resonated within her. "Jessica, join us!" In a flash, the lights flickered violently, plunging the hallway back into darkness again. Panic exploded in her chest. She felt the shadows rising, swirling around her feet, wrapping her like a cold shroud trying to take her down. Her instincts screamed, and she turned on her heel, running blind into the black void. "No!" Zach's voice echoed behind her, filled with agony. "You can't run." As she barreled down the hall, desperately searching for an exit or a flicker of light, her breathing turned ragged. The spirits stirred with each step she took, clawing at her consciousness, begging her to join the dance of shadows. She clutched the photograph tightly, the boy's face burned into her mind. Why was he so important? Was he the one who needed her help? A scream caught in her throat as the whispers crescendoed just as she rounded a corner, finally crashing through a door and tumbling into an unfamiliar room. Broken desks and overturned chairs littered the space, the windows barricaded with heavy curtains. The shadows flowed in after her, swirling like dark smoke. Jessica struggled to her feet, feeling the tears welling in her eyes, battling the terror gripping her heart. The walls whispered her name. "Jessica, you'll never be free." Just then, she locked eyes with the girl from before, the one who had called for help. This time she stood in the corner of the room, staring with wide, pleading eyes. The girl's finger trembled as she pointed to something behind Jessica. A chill crept over her as she turned slowly, dread clawing at her insides. What waited behind her? The answer could shatter everything she thought she knew. The tension hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Jessica's heart raced, ripping her away from reason. What if she was out of time? And then, in the distance, another sound broke through, the sound of footsteps approaching slowly, deliberately. Who or what was coming for her now? The footfalls echoed, each step a heavy thud against the wooden floor, amplifying Jessica's dread. Shadows flickered as she turned, her eyes darting wildly, trying to pierce the dark. That girl, the one with the terrified gaze, was all but forgotten in the face of this new horror. Please, please, Jessica gasped, stepping back, her heel brushing against a broken chair. The cold sweat dripped down her back as she braced herself against the wall. She squeezed the photograph so tightly that the edges dug into her palm. And then it emerged from the darkness, a figure cloaked in shadow, its outline shifting like smoke. A face loomed forward, eyes glinting with a sickly glow. "You called for help," Jessica had hissed, voice like nails scraping against glass. "No, I didn't. I'm not like them," she screamed, pushing herself further against the wall. The shadows pressed in, warping around her, as if waiting for her to crumble. "Oh, but you are!" It laughed, a sound like bones breaking. "You are more connected than you know. Join us, embrace what you truly are." Jessica shook her head vigorously, her breath quickening. Thoughts jumbled in her mind, swirling into a tornado of confusion. There was something wrong about that laugh, something sinister lurking beneath each syllable. She strained to remember. The boy in the photograph, could he be the key? His eyes seemed so familiar. "Lily," she cried out, the name of her sister dragging her back to reality. "Get away from me. I need to find my sister." As if in response, the shadow shifted, reforming into a familiar shape, the figure of a boy. Tom? But it was impossible. He was gone. "Jessica," it called gently, voice dripping with a false sense of affection. "She's waiting for you." Just around the corner the shadows began to swirl, revealing a path lined with muted colors, then bursting with light. Jessica squinted, trying to pierce the brilliance. Was this another trap? A siren's call drawing her further into darkness? "No! You're lying!" she shouted, forcing herself to stay rooted in place. But deep down, curiosity clawed at her. Was Lily safe? Or were they both ensnared in this wretched place? "Join us," the voice purred, drawing closer. "The choice is yours. You just need to reach out." Jessica turned, and it hit her. The girl in the corner, she pointed because she knew. Maybe there was a way out. Maybe the boy from the photo was tied to them all. She stepped forward, heart racing, feeling the weight of souls pressing around her. "Stop!" she yelled at the shadows, summoning anger. "Get away from me." The figure faltered, surprise flickering over its ghastly features. In that moment, she broke free from the paralysis. Spinning back to the girl, she shouted, "What do I need to do?" But the girl's eyes widened, transfixed by something behind Jessica. "No!" she screamed, but it was too late. The figure surged at her. In a single breath, Jessica leapt, racing toward the walls. Heart clawing in her chest, adrenaline pumping through her veins, she dove into the light. A moment later, the shadows surged forward, howling with rage. Jessica landed hard, rolling onto cold concrete. She squinted against the harsh brightness of reality, gasping for air. Where was she now? The whispers faded, but silence fell with an ominous weight. She was free for now. But deep within, dread twisted like a knife. What did I just unleash? Then, the sound of laughter broke the stillness. High and echoing, a familiar voice reverberated around her. It sent chills down her spine. Time was running out. She had to find Lily before it was too late. But who were those whispering in the dark? And how far would she have to go to rescue her sister from the depths of despair? Jessica struggled to catch her breath, her heart pounding in her chest like a deafening drum. The concrete was cold beneath her hands, grounding her in this new reality. But where was she? The laughter lingered in the air, a sickening reminder that danger hadn't dissipated. Shaking off the disorienting haze, Jessica rose to her feet, glancing around. It was a dimly lit corridor, dingy and lifeless, with flickering fluorescent lights overhead. The walls were stained and peeling, filled with whispers of lost conversations. She could feel the weight of the shadows pressing in around her, thickening like fog, threatening to wrap around her like silken webs. "Lily!" she shouted, voice echoing against tangible silence. No response came. Just the incessant hum of the lights above, every flicker making her flinch. She took a cautious step forward, her shoes scuffing against the dusty floor. The shadows seemed to shift in response, eager to follow her every move. She had to find her sister. Had to see her face again, even if it was the last thing she did. "Please let her be okay," she whispered into the stillness. "I'll do anything." As she continued down the corridor, doors lined the walls, each one sealed tight. Jess pressed her palm against one, feeling a cold chill radiate from within. The knob was cold like ice. Instinct told her to turn back, but the desperate hope for Lily pushed her forward. She twisted the knob, and it creaked open, revealing a dark room. The air inside was stale, laced with something rotten. She squinted, her eyes trying to adjust to the gloom. Something shifted near the far wall. A figure emerged, clad in a tattered school uniform, eyes wide and hollow. It looked like a girl, but the resemblance was faint, distorted. "Help me," the creature croaked, voice a sickly whisper that sent shivers racing down Jessica's spine. It swayed, as if caught in an eternal state of despair. "Are you?" "No." "You're not Lily." Jessica recoiled, shaking her head. She stumbled back, instinct forcing her away from the horror. This room wasn't a sanctuary. It was a tomb. The girl's mouth twisted into a mockery of a smile as dark tendrils began to weave around her limbs. "You are just like us. You will join us soon enough." Jessica slammed the door shut, heart racing. Each breath was sharp. Fear clawed at her insides, squeezing tight. She raced down the corridor, desperately searching for any sign of her sister. Every door felt like a haunting echo, whispering that they too held horrors she couldn't face. A sudden crash echoed from further down the hall. Jessica froze, her ears straining. It came again, a heavy thud followed by a guttural sound. Panic surged through her. Was it the thing from before? Was it coming for her? She crept forward, edging toward the sound. Shadows danced along the walls, mocking her resolve. Sweat beaded at her temples as she pressed on. Then she saw it, a door ajar, faint light spilling from the crack. The thumping continued inside. "Lily!" she shouted, hope battling her dread. "Are you in there?" The thumping stopped abruptly. Silence hung heavy, stifling. Then, a rasping voice called back, "Jessica, you found me." Her heart lurched. But before she could step forward, the laughter returned, echoing in the darkness, more sinister than before. "Oh, Jessica, you shouldn't have come here." Jessica's blood ran cold, her instincts screaming at her to run. She hesitated, a battle between hope and terror igniting within her. What lurked beyond that door? She had to make a choice, confront whatever awaited her, or turn and flee into the unknown. Just then, the door swung wide open. Jessica gasped, eyes wide in shock at the sight that greeted her. "Come in," the voice beckoned, light casting a chilling glow behind the figure that stood there. It was not her sister. But in that moment, she felt a pull, something deeper than fear promising answers, and more peril. "Are you ready to embrace the darkness, Jessica?" As she stood frozen in the doorway, she realized she was at a crossroads. The path ahead branched into allegiance with shadows or stepping back into crippling uncertainty. Time was slipping away. Which path would she choose? "You won't find her without me," the voice called again, certainty wrapping around the words like chains. What had she unleashed? And why did it feel so tantalizingly familiar? Jessica's breath hitched in her throat, the voice resonating like a death knell. Desperate curiosity tugged at her, but terror held her in place. It felt like the very walls were leaning in, urging her to step deeper into the unknown. "Who are you?" she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure stepped forward, partially shrouded in darkness, but the glimmer of light revealed a gaunt face, every feature stretched taut like a canvas of despair. "I'm just a guide, Jessica. An invitation to what is real. Your sister is closer than you think." The enticing promise slithered into her mind, feeding her courage, but it felt wrong, so wrong. The shadows coiled tighter around her, whispering indecipherable secrets. Jessica could almost see them, writhing on the periphery of her vision, waiting for her decision. "Stay away," she shouted, her heart racing. "If you know where Lily is, tell me." A laugh echoed through the corridor, hollow and chilling. "You'll have to choose. Run or follow. But remember, fear is a prison, and I have the keys." The air shifted, things swirling in the twilight, and Jessica felt a sickening twist in her stomach. Every instinct screamed at her to escape. But what if this was all about saving Lily? What if running meant losing her forever? Clenching her fists, she edged towards the doorway, tension radiating off her like steam. "I'm not afraid of you," she declared, though her voice trembled. "Is that so?" the figure replied, mocking her bravado. "Fear lives in every corner of this place. It has a taste for souls like yours." With a deep breath, Jessica glanced back down the corridor. The dim light flickered like a dying ember. The laughter echoed again, a cacophony that twisted her stomach into knots. She turned back, adrenaline flooding her veins. "Show me!" she cried. "Show me where she is!" The shadowy figure smiled, a wicked grin that split its face, full of jagged teeth. "Very well. But I warn you." The air grew heavier, thick with a palpable dread that tightened around her throat. The figure stepped aside, revealing a swirling darkness behind them. Heart pounding, Jessica stepped inside, engulfed by shadows that felt alive, curling around her limbs like the hands of the damned. As she crossed the threshold, a wave of nausea hit her, sending her to her knees. The floor felt soft and pulsating, like flesh. The laughter swelled again, wrapping around her like a cocoon. Then it fell silent. "Welcome home," the voice croaked, echoes reverberating in the oppressive gloom. Here, dreams turned to nightmares. Without warning, images flooded Jessica's mind, flashes of Lily, laughing and bright, ghosting through her memory like a fading star. Then those joyful images twisted, morphing into horrific sights: her sister trapped in darkness, pleading, crying out for help. The connection shocked Jessica, her heart tearing at the seams. "Lily!" she screamed, desperation leaping in her chest. A faint sound echoed back, a soft sob that shattered her resolve. Jessica pushed through the strange murkiness, driven by a fierce need to find her. Every step felt like wading through wet cement, each motion weighed down by despair. The darkness curled against her skin, whispering lies, sowing seeds of doubt. "You can't save her, Jessica. She has one of us now." "No!" Jessica screamed against the voices, determination digging in like a shard of ice within her. "I want to lose her." With newfound strength, she forged on. The shadows clawed at her, dragging her back, but she dug her heels in, heart pounding fiercely in her chest. The darkness began to thin, revealing twisted hallways lined with doors, each one vibrating with life or death. "This way," the ghastly voice coaxed. Jessica hesitated, her stomach turning. What lay beyond those doors? Hope twisted like a blade in her, a promise of Lily, or a trap to ensnare her in eternal night. Facing the door lit with an ominous glow, Jessica raised her hand to touch the knob, her pulse echoing in her ears. What would she find if she opened it? Was it worth the risk? "Choose wisely," the figure whispered, a teasing edge to its voice. She felt the weight of choice crush down on her, the air slipping through her fingers. Would she shatter the darkness, or embrace it? The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room pulsating with an unnatural energy. A chill rushed through Jessica, a sickly sweetness wafting in the air like rotting fruit. She stepped inside, her feet sinking into a carpet that felt wet and alive. Whatever lay ahead stirred in the shadows, watching her with malevolent eyes. "Lily?" she called, voice breaking. It echoed back, swallowed by the darkness. With every heartbeat, dread settled deeper in her bones. As her gaze adjusted to the gloom, she saw walls lined with pictures, images of anguished faces twisted in torment, each pair of eyes trapped in a silent scream. They felt alive, their horror clawing at her heart, binding her with unseen chains. A whisper scratched at her mind, luring her closer to each frame. "Look, learn to spare." "No." She recoiled, shaking her head, trying to clear her mind. Memories of her sister flickered through her thoughts again. Lily's laughter, the way her eyes sparkled with mischief. Jessica steeled herself. Down that memory lane, she couldn't let the darkness pull her away. In the corner, something shifted. The soft sob she heard before returned, growing louder, more desperate. Jessica turned, eyes locking onto a figure huddled against the wall. "Lily?" The figure looked up, but it wasn't Lily. The twisted face, bloated with despair, contorted into a grotesque parody of a human's expression. "Help me," it rasped, and Jessica's skin prickled with recognition. It was a warning deep inside her, a reminder of the shadows that breathed life into nightmares. "No!" she yelled, heart racing. "You're not her." With sudden clarity, Jessica realized what she faced. This was not a mere space. This was a trap, a gauzy web woven from fear and agony, each strand vibrating with anguish. "You're just a trick," she shouted, and the sobbing turned into cruel laughter. It echoed around the room, bouncing off the walls like a haunting melody. She spun back to the door, but it had vanished, swallowed by the dark. Panic welled in her throat. The weight of her decision pressed heavily down. "This isn't real," she screamed, fingers curling into her palms. She had to remain strong, to believe in the love she held for Lily. In that moment of clarity, a flicker of light danced from the far end of the room. Jessica squinted, her breath hitching as she saw it, an opening, bright and hopeful, beckoning her forward. "Lily!" she cried, her voice trembling with desperation. Without thinking, she surged towards the light, hand outstretched. The laughter twisted into a cacophony, pleading, howling, clawing at her sanity. Shadows lunged at her from every direction, claws scraping against her skin as she pushed through. "Don't look back! Don't look back!" she repeated to herself as she bolted towards the brightness, heart pounding in her ears. Just when she felt fingers graze her neck, she burst through the threshold, spilling into the light. This new space was brighter, but it smelled of decay, like a graveyard under the sun. She found herself standing in a labyrinth of mirrors, each reflecting her image, warped and grotesque. Jessica felt bile rise in her throat. "What the hell is this?" she yelled. "Welcome to the reflection of your fears." The figure's voice dripped like poison, echoing through the chamber. In the mirrors, she saw figures lurking in the depths, twisted versions of herself, each stepping forward, bearing teeth that were not her own. "You can't escape your own darkness," they chanted, a horrific chorus that clawed at her mind, pulling at her resolve. Jessica pushed forward, disoriented. "Lily!" she screamed again. Would she be consumed by these nightmares? The laughter rose to a deafening pitch, melding with her own frantic breaths. An icy dread gripped her heart. Could this be a part of the key to saving her sister, or was it leading her to the edge of despair? A mirror flickered and suddenly showed a scene: Lily, trapped and crying. Time froze as hope clawed its way into Jessica's heart. "No! I'll find you." But would the light guide her towards salvation or deeper into the abyss? The mirror seemed to pulse, breathless and eager, reflecting the turmoil inside Jessica's mind. With every step, the laughter grew more frenzied, echoing off the mirrored walls, a chilling reminder that the darkness was still close, still breathing down her neck. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a caged animal. Lily. The name tore from her lips, frayed with desperation and fear. Each echo felt like a taunt, a mockery of her frantic search. She stumbled forward, her fingers trailing against the cool surfaces, leaving behind streaks of sweat and panic. Suddenly, a mirror caught her eye. It drew her in, far more than the others. The reflection was different. It showed her seated beside Lily, two of them giggling on a warm summer day, surrounded by sunshine and the smell of blooming flowers. But then the image morphed, shadows creeping in, twisting the joy into sorrow. Jessica gasped as she saw Lily collapse, dark tendrils encircling her like ravenous vines. No! 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 The image flickered and distorted. A scream clawed its way up Jessica's throat, but it was drowned out by the howling laughter that erupted around her. Willing herself to turn away, Jessica stumbled into a corridor of daunting mirrors. She could see different versions of herself trapped within wide-eyed, terrified, whispering horrors that echoed softly back to her. You should have stayed away. It's too late. You can't save her. Shut up. You're not real. Jessica shouted, clenching her fists, guilt and misdirection swirling inside her like a storm. You can't run from the truth, one version hissed, its eyes flickering with wicked glee. You failed her, just like you will fail again. The weight of those words struck her hard, a chill slithering through her spine. Guilt dug its claws deeper, threatening to paralyze her. She could feel her breath hitching, just as the figures in the reflections began to converge upon the edges of her vision. No! I want to believe this. She shot forward again, desperate to escape the grasp of regret. Each step felt like wading through mud, the force of despair clawing at her heels. As she darted through the maze, another mirror shimmered to life. This time, it wasn't her face staring back, but Lily's. The girl looked terrified, eyes wide, lips quivering, pleading. Jess! Help me, please! Tears stung Jessica's eyes, but she shook her head, desperate to push through the waves of emotion that threatened to wash over her. I'm coming! She screamed, fueled by love and desperation. But as she reached toward the shimmering glass, it shattered, shards flying like daggers through the air. She flinched, feeling the sharp sting against her skin. The mirrors around her rippled and warped, laughter transforming into screams of anguish. Reflections of terror flooded the corridor as darkness seeped in around her, suffocating every last hope. Run, a voice whispered, but it was swallowed by the nightmarish chorus that surrounded her. Jessica turned, instinct taking over, but which way was the exit? The forever increasing cacophony intensified. And there it was, a new image. In a warped reflection, she glimpsed the corner of another room, darker and filled with shadows. Was it a trap, or would it lead her to Lily? The figments of her own dread leapt closer, grasping her by the arms and pulling her backward. Choose, they howled. Your sister or your life. Jessica felt the weight of the choice pressing down. The shadows of her past converged, slithering around her, tightening like a noose. Get off! She screamed, jerking away. With a surge of adrenaline, she bolted towards the new room, toward the haunting promise of her sister's voice. But what awaited her in that darkness? Would it be her only chance to save Lily, or a plunge into the deep end of despair? Jessica plunged into the darkness, heart racing as she sprinted towards the shadowy corner. The dim light illuminated just enough for her to make out the contours of a room. Old janitorial supplies lurked in the corners, their neglected presence thick with dust and cobwebs. The air smelled musty, tinged with something coppery iron, or perhaps something far worse. Lily! She cried out, desperation clawing at her throat. The silence that followed felt heavy and suffocating, amplifying her dread. Where was her sister? Was she really here? Or had the echoes of laughter lured her into another trap? As she stepped deeper into the room, the door slammed shut behind her with a bone-chilling thud. Jessica spun around, panic surging through her veins. "No! Let me out!" Her voice bounced off the walls, but there was no answer, only the distant thrum of muted whispers. She took a hesitant step forward. The darkness felt alive, pulsing like a heartbeat, and she knew she had to keep moving. The whispers morphed into murmurs, filling her ears with words of torment. "You can't save her, it's too late, you'll regret this, no," she shouted, shaking her head violently. "You're wrong. I have to find her." With every step, the whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a storm. Then, a glimmer caught her eye, a flickering light in the corner. It was a single bulb hanging precariously from a frayed wire, illuminating a small doorway just ahead. But the moment her foot grazed the threshold, a scream pierced the darkness, echoing the very fabric of her soul. "Jessica!" It was Lily's voice, fragile and full of terror. The sound sent a jolt through her. She had to reach her sister. Without hesitating, Jessica rushed toward the source of the scream. The doorway revealed a narrow staircase spiraling downward, shadows licking at her heels. "Hold on, Lily. I'm coming." Each step felt like walking through quicksand as she descended. The walls tightened around her, dripping moisture that felt like fingers brushing against her skin. Her breath quickened, the silhouette of her sister's face etched in her mind. At the bottom of the staircase, she stumbled into a dimly lit basement, transformed by her own fears. Shadows danced menacingly in the corners, and the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. The floor was littered with broken mirrors, each shard reflecting fragmented, nightmarish images that stole her breath away. In the center of the room, a single mirror stood upright, encased in an ornate frame. It pulsed strangely, beckoning her closer. Jessica felt the familiar tug of allure and dread. Was Lily trapped behind this mirror? "Jess!" Lily's voice echoed again, louder and sharper this time. "Please help me." Jessica rushed toward the mirror, heart hammering against her chest. As she drew nearer, shadows coiled around her legs, pulling her down, whispering insidious secrets. "Don't trust her, she is not real, you can't escape, no." Jessica cried out, fighting against the grip of despair, forcing herself to focus on her sister's voice shining like a beacon in the darkness. She reached out, fingertips grazing the surface of the glass just as it rippled violently, distorting Lily's reflection. "Help me!" Lily's terrified eyes locked onto hers, pleading with an intensity that tore at Jessica's heart. With a surge of determination, Jessica pressed her palms against the cold glass. "I want to leave you." Suddenly, the mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces, sharp shards flying in every direction. The noise was deafening, as if the entire house was screaming. Jessica shielded her face, but she felt the wet warmth of blood trickle down her arm from a cut. And then, an icy wind swept through the basement, extinguishing the light. Jessica stumbled backward, blind in the darkness, panic clawing at her throat. "Lily!" she shouted, but there was only silence. Then she felt a presence creeping closer, the air heavy with suffocating dread. It whispered in the dark, chilling her to the bone. "You chose poorly." Was it the echoes of her failure? Or something far more sinister? Jessica froze, heart pounding, as a shape began to emerge from the shadows. What was lurking just beyond her sight? Would the truth shatter her reality once again? The darkness thickened, wrapping around Jessica like a suffocating shroud. She could feel the oppressive weight of dread bearing heavily on her chest, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She stumbled back, clutching her arm where the cut burned, and fought against the spiraling panic. The whispers called out again, echoing in the hollow stillness, gnawing at her sanity. "Lily!" she shouted once more, desperation sharpening each syllable. But the whispers only laughed, distorted and cruel, swirling around her like a tormenting storm. In the dark, figures loomed, half-formed shapes of anguish that writhed and twirled, their faces flickering like dying embers, begging for release. "You can't escape, Jessica," they taunted, their voices joining in a haunting chorus. "Join us, we are one." "No!" She shook her head, clenching her fists to steady herself. This was not real. It couldn't be. Just shadows, just echoes of the past. "Lily needs me," she screamed, forcing her determination against the suffocating dread. Suddenly, a flicker of light danced across her vision, the remnants of the shattered mirror glinting amidst the darkness. It momentarily illuminated the room, and Jessica felt a flicker of hope ignite in her chest. The broken shards reflected her own scared face, twisted and trembling, but behind her, they also reflected something else, another door? And behind it, a glimmer of warmth. She had to try. With all the strength she could muster, Jessica plunged towards the flickering glow, heart pounding hard against the rising cacophony. Shadows lunged at her, attempting to ensnare her in their grasp, but she fought against them, propelled by love and the memories of laughter they shared. "Lily! Hold on!" she shouted, rushing through the swirling darkness. With every step toward the light, the whispers grew frantic, each call more desperate, more afraid. "You can't leave us, you can't hide." Ignoring them, the warmth of the light grew more tangible, enveloping her like an embrace to lead her deeper. She pushed through the haze, her feet pounding against the ground, propelled by the thought of her sister's face. Then she reached that doorway. The shadows clawed at her, but Jessica threw herself through, landing hard on the other side. Light burst around her as she tumbled into a new space. The air felt fresh, a stark contrast to the musty decay behind her. She gasped, scrambling to her feet. This place was vibrant, a school hallway flooded with sunlight, bringing life back into her weary bones. But where was Lily? She spun around, searching desperately. The hallway was empty. Two quiet echoes of laughter from vibrant days gone by shimmered in the air. A shiver shot down her spine. Had she gone too far? Had she lost her sister forever? Then, from down the hall, she heard it. A soft, hesitant voice calling her name. "Jess?" "No." "Lily." Jessica sprinted toward the sound, heart pounding with renewed hope. She raced past the classroom doors, memories of days spent learning, laughing all the innocent times before darkness shadowed their lives. Just ahead, she spotted her sister, hair spilling like sunlight, her posture wavering as she hovered over something in a classroom. Jessica barreled closer, fear and relief colliding like a wave. "Lily." "I'm here." But her sister seemed frozen, hypnotized by something lying on the floor before her. "Lily," Jessica yelled, panic rising. She skidded to a stop beside her little sister, heart racing, as she turned to face what kept her wrapped in aged photograph. Her breath caught in her throat. It was the same boy from the picture in the supply closet, but now he looked painfully familiar, eyes drilling into her soul. And in that instant, realization washed over her like a wave. This was the connection. This boy was part of the shadows, haunting the halls, waiting for release, for healing. The whispers surged back, filling her ears again. "Join us, help us, you're one of us, save her." Jessica gripped Lily's shoulders, shaking her. "You have to listen to me. This place, these whispers, they want to consume you. We have to leave." Lily blinked, finally turning towards her, eyes wide with fear and confusion. "But Jess, he is just a boy, can't we help him?" "No. The boy is trapped here. They're all trapped here. We need to break free," Jessica shouted, her voice trembling. Fear flickered in Lily's eyes, but a glimpse of understanding began to grow. "Then we have to go." Jessica swallowed hard, the layers of darkness pressing closely, sensing her resolve. "Together," she urged, reaching for Lily's hand. They squeezed fingers tight, locking eyes, and in that moment, Jessica felt an overwhelming surge of love and kinship building a barrier against the demons of despair right at its heart. Taking a step away from the boy's photograph, they turned back down the hallway, the faint whispers rising to a crescendo behind them, furious and desperate to hold them back. "We're not yours," Jessica shouted, her voice ringing with defiance. Together, they charged back toward the archway of light. Behind them, the shadows screamed and clawed, but as they crossed over into the brightness, the air trembled, the whispers ricocheting off the walls, fading into distance. And then, there they stood, bathed in warmth and clarity. Disoriented but alive. Jessica glanced around at the sun-drenched hallway, relief flooding her chest. It felt like a dream, where shadows could not touch them, where laughter filled the void left by fear. "Lily, we made it!" she cried, wonder sparkling in her voice. Lily's eyes lit with joy, the bond between them stronger than any darkness. "We really did." But as they turned to leave the school and emerge into the bright, welcoming world outside, a haunting laughter echoed behind them one last time. "Remember, we're still here." Jessica clasped Lily's hand tighter. "No matter what is left behind, we are free," she whispered, a vow shared between them that none of the darkness could claim them anymore. And they stepped into the daylight, leaving the whispers behind, together, all fear shattered, fresh beginnings awaiting them beyond the realm of shadows. As the sun warmed their faces, Jessica finally felt the weight lift. The journey had changed them, transformed them, each step leading them back to safety. Side by side, they moved forward, building brighter tomorrows, leaving the haunted whispers in the past where they belonged. Jessica squeezed Lily's hand, feeling hope blossom anew. "This is the start of something good, I promise." But deep inside her, the shadows waited. If you love this story and want more exclusive thrillers, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button and fuel our journey forward. Flood the comments section with your theories. What did you think of the ending? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters. Let's keep the stories coming.